Hello everyone, welcome to Toy Soldier Tales podcast episode 2, Bretonnia. You wouldn't believe it, but it's actually the third time I've said that, because the first time I messed up the intro, the second time I didn't hit record. So this is the third time saying that. I'd like to thank James and Steve for being here.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for being here and thank you for listening to me say that for the third time. We're still new to this, we're still getting used to it. So apologies for the first episode. The audio wasn't great, so we've done some tweaks to try and get the audio a lot better. We're just trying to produce content and keep the channel going until we can all get together and play some more battle reports, and so we can record them. We're back talking about the Triple Crown comp. I talk about it all the time on the videos and whatnot. It is the most used composition I can think of at the moment in the UK Warhammer scene, and it's the word pertinent at the moment it's quite on point, because in the last week, with COVID restrictions looking to ease down towards summer, there's been 3 tournaments announced in August, September time. And 2 of them are using the Triple Crown comp. So, start writing armor lists now, get ready to start playing, and listen to our podcast to get ideas. So our first episode was about Orcs and Goblins. There's been a new update to the Triple Crown comp that's been released. So the updated composition will be in the link below. So it's a 6.5 version, and there's been some minor tweaks. So there hasn't been any tweaks to Orcs and Goblins. So what we discussed on our previous episode is still the same. There's been no changes there. Go back and listen to that if you're interested in taking an Orcs and Goblins list to Triple Crown, or listen to it even if you think you might go up against Orcs and Goblins. There's usually like 3 or 4 Orcs and Goblins players there, so it's worth a listen to see what you might come up against. But yeah, as I said, I got James and Steve here. We're all going to one of those Triple Crown competitions in September, which is the Cardiff competition. Really looking forward to that. Obviously, because we haven't played games in a long time. I think there was, 48 places there were for that tournament?
That's what sold out in like 24 hours, and then due to restrictions, that's what they have to cap out at. So they're going to have more tickets if the world is in a more stable place.
Wow, I think that's great. I think that's really good for the hobby. People haven't been playing games for a long time, but to sell 48 tickets in less than 24 hours is really good. And then we've also got the Triple Crown, the actual Triple Crown comp tournament coming up sometime in August. Dates to be determined. James Lamin, if you're listening to this, you best save me a ticket. Save all 3 of us a ticket, please, because we would all love to come. And we spend enough time talking about your rules pack and sharing it with the world. I think we deserve to be there. But this episode, we're going to take a slightly different turn to the previous episode. We're going to skip over the standard composition for Bretonnians and just talk about it as we go through the army list. So James and Steve have both been building their Bretonnian list recently. 2 very different armies in terms of miniatures used. Steve, do you want to describe your Bretonnian army?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's on the various Facebook forums has probably seen it a couple of months ago. I just finished it off. It's all halfling based, so the knights are riding pigs or walruses, and there's the hot pot cauldrons for the trebuchets and things like that. So it's an entire Bretonnian halfling army.
Yeah, so it's really cool. You've definitely seen it. if you're on any of the forums. And James, yours is quite standard in terms of models, but you've gone for like a nice, interesting color scheme, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm a big fan of orange, and to me, Bretonnians are very white holy knights in the lore. So I thought white and orange sounded great. Anyone who's tried to paint mass white and orange will appreciate my pain because they're not easy colors to work with.
Yeah, it's kind of challenging yourself there, aren't you, with those two colours?
Yeah, and it's not the greatest painter in the world. It's an interesting challenge so far.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we go into the army lists, I haven't written one because I'm not actually building a Tomb King army. No, Tomb King army. I say Tomb Kings because I'm building a Tomb King army. Bretonnians army at the moment, and you guys have recently built it, so we're going to be going through your army lists. There's just a couple of things that I'd like to point out for those people who are sat at home with their Bretonnian army book. There have been a couple of changes to Bretonnians overall in the composition. The first one being that the following Bretonnian units gain the Devastating Charge special rule. So that would be Lord, Paladin, Knights of the Realm, Knights Errant, Questing Knights, Pegasus Knights, Grail Knights, and the Green Knight. We're all big fan of this, I think. Yeah, you guys agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely needed. They took a big nerf in the 7th edition. Well, moving from 7th edition to 8th edition, i.e. cavalry, you don't get to strike first when you charge. There's such things as steadfast fighting in hordes and things like that. And they took a real nerf, cavalry did. So by granting a very, very heavily based cavalry army, Devastating Charge, I think, was really good. And then they also removed the 0-1 selection to the following units like Grail Elite, Pegasus Knights, and Grail Knights. And, that just brings them in line with a lot of the other armies out there because I don't think there's any 8th edition army book that has 0-1 selections in them.
Not that we can think of.
No. So, with those rules, it really helps Bretonnians become a bit more of a force to be reckoned with. Because otherwise, it's an old army book. There's not a wide variety of units available, and just by doing these like little tweaks, it really allows a Bretonnian player to get back to make him a bit more competitive without rewriting the whole army book. So, would you guys make any other changes other than that?
The only one I would consider would be allowing the virtues not to come out of the magic items allowance, and make it more like sort of vampire bloodlines or chaos. I don't know what they're called, mutations. Is it?
Oh yeah, so you've got the chaos gifts and mutations,
yeah,
and then you've got the vampire bloodline abilities, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even if you made it 25 points for heroes and 50 points for lords, or just blanket, because I think you can only take one virtue anyway, so it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Just take them separate to the magic items. I think that'll make quite a nice difference. Just bring them in line because Bretonnian characters are meant to be kind of the pinnacle of a human war effort, I suppose. Is probably the best way of putting it. So I would imagine, although they'll never be as good as Chaos Lords or Vampires, it just puts them a little bit step above, the Empire Generals and things like that, which is where I think they should be.
Yeah, I agree. I think pretty much everything in the army is either a -1 or a +1 because there's so few units in the whole thing. So another way just to mix it up and really change the way people play their lists would be we gave them all access to all 8 laws in the rulebook. And just kind of let people have free reign, just so you could do some different combos and see what would potentially work and not work. I don't think it would completely break it, but maybe seeing some Law of Light our armies to give them better weapon skill and initiative and things like that could be.
I like how you automatically went to the law of light, and I'm here thinking of prophetess on a Pegasus flying around, purple sunning everything, and like my immediate thought was, oh yeah, you give him access to law of death, and your immediate thought was, yeah, law of light. I think that shows the difference there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's both good points. I think I definitely agree with it maybe expanding, because I think they've only got access to heavens, beasts, and life. I think the level 2s have got access to even less. But I can understand that based upon the law. They don't have access to like the colleges of magic like the Empire do. But I think it would be good on the virtues as well. But let's move into the army list. James, you've got a nice, interesting army list for us.
Yeah, so I've written a list which is sort of kind of what I wanted to include and what I thought could work as well. So in my list, I think Bretonnian Lords are one of the strengths they have because of the virtues. It kind of goes back to 7th edition where you can kind of have a lot more kitted out lords. So I give him Gauntlet of the Duel, which means you cannot refuse challenges, combined with the virtue of confidence, which means he gets to reroll the hit and wound in that challenge, with the Gromril Great Helm, which gives him a 1+ rerollable save, with the Sword of Anti-Heroes. So I guess the idea is he'll charge into a unit which has multiple heroes in it with his devastating charge rule, get his extra attack, get his extra strength. You have to accept the challenge, then he gets to reroll the hit and wound with a 1+ rerollable save. And if you have a decent strength, he gets a 5+ ward as well. So he's really hard to kill, puts damage, and that's kind of his job. I've gone for a level 4 of Heavens. I haven't gone for a Dispel Scroll. I've actually gone for a Power Stone this time.
Okay.
Reason for this is because Heavens has got some great bubble buff spells, which can either like debuff people or really buff your knights. And because you're reliant on quite often one significant turn of a mega charge, I've gone with the attitude of actually if I can just get a really good magic phase, that one phase, it could be enough to break an army, or at least enough to break them down where now I can slowly win that grind. So that's that attitude as well. And also because the way I've built my army, I don't have a kind of a Death Star. I'm more concerned about getting nuked. There's multiple units of knights where actually if one of them dies, it shouldn't be the end of the world. Because I've gone with 4 units of knights.
You also get +1 comp for not having a Dispel Scroll.
Yeah, that too as well. I've got 2 paladins on Pegasuses, flying around with lancers, heavy armor, the usual bits. One of them's got a charm shield just because it's a couple points more than a normal shield, and it's obviously it's great for anti-cannons and things like that. I find Bretonnians are super fast, but not very mobile. So what I mean by that is their straight line speed is good, but because they have long, unwieldy units, they can actually get outmaneuvered sometimes. So the 2 Pegasuses are there to kind of like block or pick up other units, or just kind of add some additional mobility. You have to take a Bsb Paladin. One of the best things in the army book is the virtue of heroism, which gives him heroic killing blow on all his attacks. Yeah, so the idea being that he can snipe whatever in one hit. So, and I think they've defined heroic killing blow gives you killing blow as well. So again, he's just a brilliant kind of, he can kill most things. You put him in the front rank. I give him an enchanted shield, so he's a 1-up save and a 5-up ward.
I think with devastating charge as well, giving you that extra attack as well. That's really quite tasty.
Absolutely. And then with the Law of Heaven spells, which can give you a lot of rerolls to of your hits and your misses and your wounds and things like that, more likely to get that 6, which is really what you're kind of hunting for. I've got 2 units of 13 Knights of the Realm. One of them with Banner of the Eternal Flame, which I never leave the house without. But they are 13 because I want to be kind of deep enough where I have 5 ranks. So again, on the charge with Devastating Charge, you can get a lot of attacks in there. So 28 odd attacks. And you've got 5 ranks to break that steadfast.
Do you think, when you were talking about Bretonnians being really unwieldy. Do you not think that's because you've taken 13 in a unit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's a whole thing about deployment. Like, if you don't quite get it right and you need to turn, you can get it completely wrong. But yeah, I understand that. But Steadfast is so strong that it's just one way to try and get around it.
How long is that unit?
Almost as long as the deployment zone.
Almost as long as the deployment zone.
So
I was going to say,
if a cavalry base is 2 inches, that's 5 times. That's 10 inches long.
Right. Okay.
Can't fit an extra rank on the end, which is why it's that long.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So there's 2 of them, which are like my 2 key combat units to pump out the damage. Because they've got a very small front, they don't take a lot of damage back. They've also got 2 upstairs of their 5 up wards from the Blessing of the Lady. So the idea again is really loading into this huge charge to try and break people. So that's the core. And then special 2 mounted yeoman units or yeoman units. Again, just blockers, a bit more mobility, try and help you set up those big charges. A unit of 9 questing knights, full command. I like them for the +1. They're kind of helpful because they've actually got an extra strength to the Knights of the Realm. Consistent strength 6 damage, can be good for fighting monsters or anything like that. Then 2 trebuchets, again, they're kind of there to pick off flyers, break down really big units with the strength 5 splash damage. And then a unit of 9 Grail Knights, again, great on the charge. One of the only units that can really pump out damage because it's got weapon skill 5 and strength 6.
Don't they have
Knights of the Realm?
Don't they have 2 attacks basic as well?
Yeah, so on the charge they get 3 each, so they really do start to do some damage.
Yeah.
But they're 38 points each, which is a lot for kind of what they are.
Hmm.
So yeah, so again, that was my idea, was 4 units of knights with some trebuchets, with a bit of mobility, with a bit of magic. And it's quite fun to play around leading the charge, because then you have to kind of block people. You have to make sure you get your charge, and then if someone just marches straight at you, you can charge almost your whole army into one unit and just break it in one turn.
So, what composition does that come out like then at the end of it?
+6.
And how has that worked out?
So you've got your +2 for your yeoman, +1 for your questing knights, plus another 1 for no dispel scroll,
And then
-1 for your extra trebuchet, plus your base ones for your army.
Oh, you get +2 for your army,
5.
don't you? So that's
so +5.
Oh no, it was +2 for the yeoman, +1 for the questing, +1 for the no dispel scroll, which is +4, +2 for the being Bretonnians, and then -1 for a trebuchet.
Yeah, so +5.
+5. That's pretty good. You know, you've got some really hardcore hitting units. There's no chaff, which is surprising. Well, no, I suppose you got the 2 units of yeoman. There's your chaff.
Yeah, they're the only chaff in the army list. If you get desperate for chaff, the flying paladins.
Yeah.
If you just can't afford to take a charge from something, you can block it for a turn on them. But they're 115 points, so it's a pretty expensive sacrifice. But again, they're just there to kind of get there if you absolutely need them. I think me and Steve have spoken about this before. If you miscast with the Prophetess, with your level 4, you can basically blow up most of a unit in one turn. The Prophet gives you magic resist 2, which sounds great because that combined with your ward save of 5+ could give you a 3-up ward. But I don't believe you get magic resist off when you off to dispel. Because it's is that right, Steve? I think we discussed this one before.
Sorry, say that again. You don't get the dispel.
So if you dispel, if you miscast.
No, you don't get that.
No, you don't get it off the miscast. No.
Yeah, because she's in base contact with 8 knights, if you pop off with multiple of those spells, you can blow up most of the unit in one go.
Mm.
So
that's 7 or less is a nightmare.
Yeah, so it's not good. But yeah, no, I think it's worth it just for that one mega magic phase. I think if you don't take a level 4, you just get dominated in magic, and the opponent can be getting 2 spells off a turn, which can really start to hurt.
Yeah, I think you've got some like really interesting thing that I think the 2 flying characters is quite nasty. You know, if you look at you know, for example, Dark Elves in the, you know, if they've got like masters on Pegasus, I think they get like minuses for that. Obviously Bretonnians don't. So you know, obviously how many paladins you got on the list? You got 2 paladins.
2 flying, 1 on the Bsb on a horse.
Oh, so you got 3 paladins in total. So yeah, so I think having just two of the flying characters, you know, they're not giving you any minuses is actually quite a nice trick. You know, it's that war machine hunting, it's the, you know, small unit sniping, it's the being where you need them to be. Yeah, I think that's a really nice choice. How many points do they come out at, the paladins?
They are 116. So
Yeah.
just building on that, the other list I wrote had 4 of them. And it would drop the unit of questing knights to get them in. So it's 1 less comp. So it figures out the +4. It's got 4 of them. And then the level 4 takes beasts, with kind of your win condition being the Law of Beast spell, which I forget the name, but gives all characters within a bubble area +3 strength and +3 attacks.
Yeah.
So if you can then hit all your, there's like 7 heroes with that. They're all running around that strength 9 with 7 attacks or something. So that's a little bit of a silly option, because I don't want to have 4 heroes and rely on that 1 spell coming off. Because that's a little bit eggs in one basket. But it's definitely an option, and actually mass flying paladins could be quite annoying to deal with.
And they work really well with that list, because they clear the chaff out the way for the main lancers to hit where they need to hit. Because any one of those paladins can easily beat down a light chaff unit without too much of a problem.
Yeah.
Well, what's he? He's getting 4 attacks in the charge. It's strength 6, and then
Pegasus,
and then the Pegasus is getting 2 attacks at strength 4 or something like that. So yeah, it's a pretty nice unit, and especially for like less than 120 points, I can definitely see why you take them. And yeah, because you know, like any other half decent, like I'm gonna say light cavalry unit is around about 100 points. So to get a flying character doing the same for 120 points. Does the Pegasus increase his wounds or anything like that? Or
yeah, it bumps up to 3 wounds.
Yeah.
It's slightly harder to kill. Annoyingly, he only gets a 3-up save, when the Dark Elf ones, because they can take their Sea Dragon Cloak, gives them a 1-up save, which is a big difference.
Yeah, well, that's why you get negatives for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But he does get his ward save, which is a nice bonus. He gets his devastating charge. Obviously, the big thing about Bretonnians, which is you just don't get first turn if you want the blessing.
Yeah.
Which does kind of suck, but it's a nice little rule, to be honest. It's quite thematic.
Thinking about taking it to Triple Crown?
Not, I believe so. I think we've discussed this before, and I have a theory that I believe if we had a 3-game tournament, I would take a high plus comp.
Yeah.
When you get 5-game or 6-game tournament, I don't think it's worth it, and I think you just take a really, really low comp. So if we went to a 3-day tournament, I'd take a +10 goblin list, which I think me and Steve have discussed.
Well, take Steve's +10 goblin list.
Well, I've got a similar one. It just happens to be the models that I have.
Right.
But if we're going to a Triple Crown 5-game one, just because the way it calculates out, you get the same minus comp, but there's more games, so the minus is worth less per game, is my theory at least. And you're more likely to have to play more competitive lists if you want to win, because after a while the comp doesn't factor into who you play. I think it's better to take a lower comp and just take the minus comp score.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And we know we discussed that more at length in the previous episode, and I'm sure it will come up again in future episodes. Yeah, nice list. Link will, James's army list will be broken down in the description below, so you all can have a look at it and steal it and slate it as much as you want in the comments.
It's also a caveat. I've never actually played a game with it.
Oh, don't say that. You're no longer an expert.
Yeah, I know. For my expert, it's a lot of maths and kind of breaking it down like that.
Yeah.
I've wanted to do this for a very long time, but I'm not an expert player with it. So I would love to throw the dice to Steve now, who's actually probably played with Bretonnians probably.
I think Steve's played with every army before, haven't you, Steve?
Yes. I had to think for a second there. But yes, I have, yeah. Yeah, but Bretonnian was actually my very first army when I first got into the hobby.
Oh, wow. What edition was that?
Sixth. Well, when I first came back anyway into the hobby, it must have been 6th or 7th edition. I can't remember. It was either 6th or very early 7th.
So if it was 6th, that would have been with this book, right?
Oh, it's always been with that book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever edition that book was, I haven't had a previous edition Bretonnian book, which I've used when I got back. So it may have been quite recent, but
wow.
I think that was the 7th edition book.
Yeah, I think it was early 7th edition actually when I came back into it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay then. So Steve, you want to give us the breakdown?
Yeah, I've gone in a slightly different direction. I don't like playing Magic with Bretonnians unless it's a prophetess on foot, because there's been too many games when I've just exploded an entire, and it's just gone horribly wrong. So I've got a Bretonnian Lord. Actually, it's a very similar kit out to what James has got. I've got the Gauntlets of the Duel. I've got the Gromril Gate Helm. I've got the Mantle of the Damsel Elena, which means that he's immune to Killing Blow and Poison.
Oof.
And he's got Virtue of Confidence as well.
Wait, hold on a second. Immune to Killing Blow and Poison.
Yeah.
That makes him really good against an Epidemus list.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's kind of like that. Yes, you can go up against Nurgle stuff and go, "Oh, what's your tally? I don't care."
That's really good.
He's got the questing bow and he's got a great weapon. So in shooting, he's got a 1-up save because he's got a shield, but in combat, he's got a 2-up rerollable. But he has got that consistent strength 6 at all times in the challenge, which no one can refuse.
And he doesn't mind striking last because he's so hard to kill as well.
Yeah, he's got a 2-up rerollable plus the ward save, so it would have to be a fairly killy character to polish him off.
Wait, how come yours is 2+ and James's was 1+?
Because he's got a sword of anti-heroes on there and a shield.
Oh, yeah, so he's got a shield.
Great weapon.
And
he loses his shield.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, silly me. Go on then.
Then I've got obviously my Bsb, which you have to take. He's not kitted out. He's kitted out, sit in the second rank and cheer and wave his flag. So he's got a biting blade just to give the list some magical attacks. A charmed shield just in case anyone does actually manage to try and hit him. A Dragonbane gem in case that hit is flaming. And the Virtue of Duty, which gives the unit, him, an extra combat res.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's somewhere in the Lance rules that actually the heroes can't sit in the second rank unless they're a wizard. I think that's a unique Lance rule where the heroes have to be in the front rank. Yeah, because I remember reading that and thinking you can kind of do the thing where you can maneuver your heroes forwards or kind of work something like that. But I could be completely wrong. But I think I remember that's a rule. I don't have my book with me now.
Yeah, it
Sorry,
says there's
on the spot.
There is a paragraph that says that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
to be
So
fair,
I might change the charm shield to
Enchanted Shield.
enchanted shield or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
a dragon helm just to give him a 1-up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Because a 1-up BSB is with an inbuilt ward save is still quite hard to kill.
Yeah.
You know, so putting him in the front rank is still going to be like he's still adding +2 combat res, and he's still pumping out 4 strength 6 attacks on the charge. You know, it's still pretty badass for a BSB.
Oh yeah. So Steve, you've got no virtue of heroism for the heroic killing blow.
No. I've found it's quite often situational.
It's a different list, James.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm leaning into his experience, which is quite interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Like, is situational because on
yeah.
paper, to me, it seems like an absolute must-take.
It is if you get it into the right thing. But if you're in a lance, I often find he's not in the right thing, and he's just waving his killing blow at infantry models or something he doesn't need it against.
Yeah, killing blow as a zombie is not really worth the points. Is it?
I would consider it if I put him on a Pegasus, because then you can target it at the right targets,
Yeah.
So that's what I'd, a Paladin with Heroic Killing Blow and a Charm Shield on a Pegasus to help get him there. That's probably worth it. Then you've got a chance of one-shotting whatever you fly into. But on a character, a lot of people take it. You can combine it with the Heartwood Lance to, on a Lord to really up the chances of getting it off. But I find a lot of the time he's just not using it. So I don't generally run it. Plus, this Paladin's set up to sit in my questing nights. He's got the questing vow. And I'll come to that later, why he's got the kit he's got. So my core, that's all my characters, a Lord and a BSB. That's all I've got.
Which means you've got extra points to spend on everything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's a total of like 370 points in total on characters. So my core is almost half my army. I have got 5 units of 9 Knight Errants with full command in my core, and then 20 Peasant Bowmen.
In 1 unit or 2 units of 10?
No, just 1 unit with braziers, musician and a standard bearer.
But it's 5 units of 9.
Yeah, 5 units of 9 Errants.
So it's 45 knights just from the start. Why Errants over Realm then?
Because if I put the same points into Realm, I think I get a unit less. So I can get. I mean, yes, I know Realm. I've got weapon skill 4, but and leadership 8. But they're probably going to be, most of them are going to be in the bubble anyway. And they're still both got a 2-up save and a ward, so they might get hit slightly more, but because you can take more of them, it's kind of quantity over quality really. That for a lot of armies, just getting through that many 2-up saves with a ward is going to be tough. And they're only 200 points each, so if I lose a unit, I'm not going to cry too much about it. So I can just throw them into stuff to hold stuff up, and they're more tactical in that sense.
Yeah, it's actually terrifying that. So nice. I remember when you were showing us this before. It's just like, God, that's a lot of stuff to deal with. My only concern of that is, don't they essentially take frenzy tests where they have to charge?
Yeah,
don't get the benefit of frenzy.
Yeah, you're going to get some on the flanks which are out of range, which might fail the odd 1 or 2, but you've got so many units, it doesn't really matter. And then there is obviously the odd chance when they roll that 6 and career off down the entire table and hit whatever they put there just to make the test. So they're quite fun to use, I find. And the equivalent Knight Realm unit is about 250, so you're saving 50 points a unit. Which is 250 points.
It makes sense. It's like a 25% increase in points, and so the math works out. You give you're giving up the slight stat line. Let's be honest, for 9 extra wounds and it's an extra unit. Yeah,
An extra unit. Yeah.
yeah. So that's that. I think that's a fair. I think if you go either way, it's viable. But I would lean personally towards the extra, the extra unit. I think is quite cool. Yeah. So what else have you got in the
It's
list?
quite scary when you put that many unit knights. If anything that makes your opponent think twice or get slightly worried on how they're going to deal with it, I think it's a good starting point. So with specials, I've got the 2 mounted yeoman units, one with a standard bearer because that's the way they were built. So one of them's got a standard. It doesn't really matter because they don't give up any points for the standard. So no, it's just an extra 10 or whatever points it is. Again, they've been covered off by James. They're useful for helping set up charges and just being generally annoying and getting in the way. Then I've got a unit of 9 questing knights, full command. Again, they're a decent hard-hitting unit. They're there for a +1. They can operate very nicely on the flank by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got 5 units of Errant careering down the middle or in range of the general, so they're passing all their impetuous tests. These questing knights can happily run up the flank, and they need to be dealt with, as you say, 18, 19 strength, or 18 strength 6 on the charge. And then my main unit is 11 questing knights, full command, and they have the wall banner, and the Bsb goes in that unit. So they start off with 12. So they start off with 3 ranks, a Bsb, Virtue of Duty, and the war banner. And if you get a charge off, I think it's a starting combat res of 8.
Yeah, that's quite nasty actually. You go before even any wounds are roll, and the thing with the lance formation, the combination of the lance formation with the devastating charge means that with devastating charge you're getting more attacks, but because you're only 3 wide, they're getting less attacks, and it's to run into a combat and go, yeah, I'm on 8.
They're really
quite
good
scary
for taking charges or charging into like mounted dragon riders or monsters or things like that, or anything with unstable in it. Because I could happily charge a dragon rider or something like that, challenge him with a champion, knowing I've already got, even if they kill the champion, so I'll have +7 combat res to start with.
Yeah.
So I'll be winning combat, or throw him into a demon, greater demon.
Yeah.
Challenge them with
There's
a
also
champion.
with both your heroes coming into the front rank, you have to declare what they're going to hit. So it's very hard to
I wouldn't
direct
necessarily put the Lord in that unit though. Only the BSB is guaranteed in that unit. That makes a unit 12. The Lord is there. He can go in any unit, so it depends on where I want his virtue of confidence to be. So I've got 7 units of knights on the table, so I can pick and choose where he wants to be, depending on where the opponent is and where I want to get that virtue of confidence. So I've got a bit more flexibility there.
Okay, nice.
What's the 7th unit of knights?
Well, I've got 5 errant and 2 questing.
Oh, 5. Oh, 2 questing. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. A lance of 9, a lance of 11.
Oh, wow. Okay, then. That's... How come you went with questing?
Because they've got +1, and to be honest, they're only a unit of 9 questing. I think it's 35 points or something more expensive than Realm.
Right.
Yeah,
And
28 points each versus 24 points each.
yeah, so that it's not that much more. But you're getting an extra pip of strength. You're getting the great weapons. You're also getting the reroll psychology tests, so that they're much better on their own on the flank. And that's where I think they want to be, is more on the flank, unless but you've got the 12 as your main hammer. But
So I
with the
think,
devastating charge as well, they make it really good.
yeah, definitely. I think. Oh yeah, because it's the strength 6 attacks, isn't it? With the
Yeah.
with the. I think the only difference is you're going to be striking last in combat.
Yeah,
and,
they
and
have to be
your
used
armor
quite
save is
well.
3 up, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's only a 3 up. But
Yeah.
that's why I think on the flanks, because then if you're hitting something in the flank, you're taking a lot less attacks back.
Mm.
So it's less of a problem, but you're doing a lot more damage when you hit. Plus, you get a lot of the time, you get the good things they're good at, killing with the monsters and stuff on the flanks.
Right.
So the points, I think, they're not bad. And then rares, I've got 2 trebuchets.
Yeah, you can't leave home without the double trebuchet.
No. I think you either go 2 or 0 for trebuchets.
Yeah, so like I think we were talking earlier about trebuchets. Not whilst we were recording. You know, it's a 90-point unit, and for it to go, it's strength 10 under the hole, but also strength 5 under the blast, makes them really, really, really strong. And in the composition, you get -1 per trebuchet after the first, which means you can only ever take 2. Well, you'd only ever take 2 in 2,500 points anyway, but you know, I think it's a must-have. I think it's a must-have to spend 180 points on that.
Yeah, I have not taken any before, and if I was going to change this list out and not take any, I would reduce the questing knights down a bit, drop the field trebuchets, maybe drop the yeoman as well, and go with grails, another grail bust. So then I'd have 8 lances.
Yeah, wow. So what does your overall composition come out that then?
That comes out as +9.
+9. So you get, where did the pluses come from? You get +2 for being Bretonnians.
You get +2 for being Bretonnians. You get +3 for not having any magic or dispels. You get +1 for the bowman. You get +2 for the 2 mounted yeoman units. You get +2 for the 2 questing knight units, and then you get -1 for the field, the second treb.
Wow. That's, I think as well, is a lot of people would balk and say, but you've got no magic. But I don't think you're really too concerned, because like you said, like each of your units is not very expensive.
No, it's only the main questing knight unit that is fairly expensive. The rest are all kind of. I mean, I would happily throw a unit of knight errants into the front of a unit, knowing they were going to lose, if I could assassinate a wizard, for example.
Well, that wizard's gonna. You said that unit of errants is like 200 points. That wizard,
Yeah,
it's gonna be like 200 points. So at least gonna get their points back if they can run in and assassinate them.
And what I found with this kind of list is, a lot of the time, you're charging multiple units in, you're doing the damage. You might hold for a turn or 2 after that, but then they usually break and run. But most of them, if they're facing foot units, the chances are they'll get away. So at the end of the battle, you might have, two errants or 3 errants running around here and there, as in left in a unit, but then you're not giving away any points.
No.
It's all kind of charge in, break, run off, charge in again.
Which is old-fashioned knight tactics.
Yeah.
That's how they were supposed to do it, right? Wheel around and come at them again.
Yeah, because I know a lot of traditional kind of tournament Bretonnian lists that I've seen anyway. I've never taken one like it, but you kind of get the massive lance with the 3 characters in the front, at least 2 with rerollable 1-up saves, which are there to protect the unit from being hit. But I think in 8th, because a lot of the main hammer units are either stubborn or unbreakable, or or I've got really killy stuff in there. Those kind of units are set up to grind, and I don't think Bretonnians are particularly good at grinding.
No.
So I would rather slam in, lose half the unit and break, a turn or two later, turn around and then do it all again, or slam in with the next wave, and break them that way.
Because you're recycling your strength and recycling the number of attacks you have then, rather than you're sat there with your 2 1-up rerollable paladins doing 6 attacks and the rest of the unit going, we're only strength 3, we're not causing any damage,
Yeah.
And I think you're right and I think that's what we said at the start, with there being the massive nerf to cavalry between 7th and 8th. It's so easy to get stubborn in 8th edition, and there's, as you said, there's a lot of units that just come with it, whether it be trolls or white lions, and
anyone can take the Crown of Command, for example. I know you get a -1 for it, but it's an option.
Yeah. So I think for even undead, for instance, you could charge that unit into a unit of undead, into a unit of skeletons, for instance, and all of a sudden you're going to win like the first round of combat, but then after that you're both just going to be staring at each other. So the
skeletons just be there waiting for me to roll bad.
Yeah, and you're not going to get through them, and so the fact that you've got multiple units that can then charge in afterwards, the fact that you can break off, because you'll be like, I actually don't mind losing combat because you're not going to catch me, and then I'm going to rally and then come charge you again. So I actually quite like that. James, what are your thoughts on Steve's list?
I think it's brilliant. I think it plays into. It'll be such a fun list to play,
and in a way, play against as well. So I think it would just be, in a way, it's sort of like you get to kind of keep piling in charges. You keep things going to be flying around all over the place. It'll just be a very nutty game, the entire game. I do completely agree that my list is very much dependent on the opponent not having stubborn. And I just don't like knight errants. I've played so many unreliable armies and failed animosities or failed stupidities at the wrong moment, when my units just go charging off at ridiculous charges or fail a frenzy or the kind of things like that. So that's why I've gone for the Knights of the Realm. With the 2 long buses. Is to try to line up that perfect one charge. But there's certain armies where you almost go, I can't break that unit in 1, so I don't know if I can win this game. It is a bit of a tough one with my list.
I mean, you've always got to remember you can use Mounted Yeoman to block impetuous tests, certainly in the first turn. And in the second turn, you probably want to be charging anyway. Because obviously you put a Mounted Yeoman unit in front of Errant, they can't charge past them, but you can move them out after 1 turn. And if they get wiped out in front of them or panic through them, it doesn't matter because the Knights don't care. So you can use them for that as well.
So, I think they're both like really good lists. He's showing 2 very different styles. Steve doesn't have any magic, he doesn't have any flying, for instance, but and he's taken a very different style in terms of, well, there's no Grail. There's a lot of the non-standard stuff. There's no Pegasus Knights. There's nothing flying. There's no Grail Knights. You've only got 2 characters, but if you break it down and really think about how to use it, it's still a very competitive list for +9 comp, but also without taking, the usual auto includes. So, and then James, James's list is, your list is very different to Steve's. Doesn't does probably have some of the usual tropes in it, but it's still quite good. It is still quite a good list for +5 comp. So I think it's very interesting looking at the two of them. I know that the list I would take would be very different to you two, for example, because the list I wrote had like 50, 60 men at arms, and multiple units of peasant bowmen, and 2 trebuchets and that kind of thing, and a wizard on foot with lore of beasts, that kind of thing.
Are you taking that because you think it's cool, or you think it because it's good?
Oh no, it's more. I'd never take Bretonnians competitively.
I think if you're going to take an all peasant list, just off the top of my head, I would take a double level 4. I'd take one on Heavens, one on Life.
Heavens and Life.
Yeah, give the Life the magic item which Bretonnians have got, which gives them like +1, I think, to cast.
All right,
or something like that, or +2. I can't remember what it is. And then go from there, because Heavens has got some excellent board control and ranged, which Life doesn't have. If you take a level 4 Life, if someone's got Dispel Scroll, they'll sit there for 3 turns going, well, I've got nothing desperate to dispel. But with Heavens, you can maybe draw that out early, and Life helps. Well, you've got Dwellers, but you've also got the spells in there to help your peasants stay alive by making them a bit tougher.
Yeah, well, my thing was just like the reason I said I do like the idea of the double wizard. I think my thing with beasts was what James was saying earlier about having multiple characters and then like buffing them through beasts, because you could take multiple cheap because you've spent so many points. You spent the majority of your points on peasants, which isn't an awful lot of points. Characters are also you've got plenty of room for characters, but I'd do something like that, which is again very different. But I don't like taking. I'm not a Bretonnian player. I wouldn't take them competitively, but that's something I could do. I don't know if I could bring myself to paint 60 men at arms though. So
once upon a time, he painted 120 goblins.
Yeah, in like 3 nights.
Yeah.
Well, my VC list has got 450 zombies painted.
Yeah, I don't know how you've done that, Steve. But we'll probably...
That made me feel a bit sick. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah,
I painted like half. I painted 10 horses today, and I was knackered. 400 zombies.
Oh. We'll talk about that when we do the vampire counts episode. But thanks very much, guys, for joining. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We're gonna be doing some more episodes on covering the Triple Crown comp. What army lists we would suggest, and what's viable for taking to the tournament. I know Steve's got about 7 or 8 different armies he's thinking of taking. James has only ever take orcs. I'm actually flirting with 3 or 4 at the moment. What I'll be taking, but when we cover those specific factions, then that's when I'll whip out my army lists and see what people think.
Don't lie, you're taking a white lion horde. You just don't want to say it.
No, I'm not. High elves is not something I'm taking.
You just pick up a big thing of cheddar and just whack it on the board and be like, here's my cheese.
I've taken high elves to the last 2 Triple Crown, and I don't think I'll be taking them again. It'll either be Dark Elves, Tomb Kings, or demons. That's what it'll be.
At the moment, I'm definitely leaning towards Beastmen.
No, let's rephrase that. You're leaning towards giant.
Yes. Leaning towards big giants.
Yeah.
But it's a +10 list, so.
Yeah.
No, that's a cool list to take. And Alan, is this your +1 demon list of Nurgle?
Yeah, so it'll either be my +6 list of Tomb Kings, my plus. Hold on, so have a quick look at my phone. I think it's either +4 or +5 Dark Elves. Is it +4 or +5 Dark Elves? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, +4 Dark Elf list, which is quite good for me. Or my +1 Demons. Yeah, which have been on the channel
I
a
really
couple
like
of
that
times.
+1 demon list. I think that's a good list as long as you don't run into Ban of the World Dragon.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that when we do Demons, but I've got a whole thing about that. But we'll talk about that when we come to Demons. But anyway, thanks again, guys, and thanks everyone for listening. Yeah, as soon as COVID ends, Steve doesn't live very far from me, so I'm sure as soon as all this lockdown ended, Steve and I are going to record a couple of games, won't we, Steve?
Yeah, hope so. I'll may even get my Bretonnians out and bring them over and see how they do.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I know James would be very keen for some games, and I've got about 4 or 5 other people from the northeast who have asked to be on the channel as well. So lots of new players and lots of different armies to show you when COVID restrictions have eased. I did say this in the last episode, but I'm going to say it again. For those people who are interested in us reviewing their army lists ready for Triple Crown, please. Or just in general, it doesn't have to be Triple Crown based. It could be just generic Warhammer Fantasy. No matter what the army size is, send your army list to toysoldiertales@gmail.com, and we'll have a look and we'll review it on the channel and give you a shout out. So thanks very much, and we'll see you for the next episode.